In this lesson, you will learn how to sketch the graph of a quadratic function from its vertex form. To master the content of the lesson, you will be able to complete a square, to change the standard form to a vertex form, to understand the vertex form of a quadratic function, and to understand the various features of a parabola. Let's begin the lesson with an example. So how do you graph this quadratic function? The first thing you want is to write this quadratic function in vertex form. So let's begin. My leading coefficient is 1, therefore I can complete my square right away. And I'll write x plus half of 2 is 1 squared minus the square of 1 is 1 minus 5. So the quadratic function in vertex form is x plus 1 squared minus 6. Then we extract the information from this form. We know the vertex is -1, -6. We know the axis of symmetry is x equals -1. The axis of symmetry is always the x-coordinate of the vertex. And now let's look for the x-intercept. So first of all, do we have any x-intercept? Well, let's see. The vertex is -1, -6, so somewhere here. And the parabola is concave up. I'm looking at the leading coefficient concave up. So yes, it will have some x-intercept. So let's find them. So we want to solve the equation g of x equal to 0. So that means x plus 1 squared minus 6 is equal to 0. Let's add 6 on both sides. X plus 1 squared equals 6. So we have x plus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 6. I don't know the square root of 6, so let me go further. X equals -1 plus or minus square root of 6. So my two x-intercepts are -1 minus root 6, 0, and -1 plus root 6, 0. Okay, what is that? I will need to plot these 2 points, so I need to approximate root 6. So let's take the calculator and let's type square root of 6. So square root of 6 is about 2.4. 2.45. So let's say 2.5. Let's say 2.5. Okay, let's go back to the problem. So this is -1 minus about 2.5, 0. I like to write it like that. I could say this is -3.5, right? But I like to write it like that to exhibit the symmetry around -1. And -1 plus 2.5, 0. Finally, the last piece of information I will need is the y-intercept. For that, of course, I'm just looking at the standard form of the equation. My y-intercept is 0, -5. So my y-intercept right here is 0, -5. Okay, let's plot all of these points that we have, starting with the vertex. So my vertex is -1, -6 right here. My first x-intercept was -1 minus 2.5. So -1 and then 1, 2, 2.5. So it's about here. My second x-intercept is -1 plus 2.5. 1, 2, 2.5 is about here. My y-intercept was 0, -5 right here. Now, don't forget, we also have the axis of symmetry, right? I haven't yet plotted my parabola, but I know this is the axis of symmetry. Therefore, I will have the symmetric of the y-intercept on the other side of this axis of symmetry right here. Finally, I'm just going to connect these 5 points like that, okay? And I will get the sketch of my parabola using 5 points. I used the vertex, the y-intercept, the two x-intercept, and the symmetrical to the y-intercept, okay, like that. So sometimes you will not have 5 points. Sometimes you're only going to have one y-intercept or maybe none. So you will use a minimum of 3 points or 4 or 5 to plot the parabola. Let's go over a second example. All right, I think this is example number 5 from your note. In this example, I do have a leading coefficient that is not 1. So let me rewrite my equation. L of x equals negative 1/2 of x squared minus 3x plus 9. And I cannot complete the square at this point. I need to have a 1 for my quadratic coefficient. So how do I get a 1 when I have a negative 1/2? Easy. I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by negative 2. Both sides of my equation I will multiply by negative 2. Some of you may see that as dividing both sides by negative 1/2. It is fine. It's the same. It's the same as multiplying by negative 2. I prefer looking at it right away as multiplying by negative 2. Okay? So let's multiply by negative 2 both sides and let's see where we are. So on the left, I will have negative 2 times L of x. On the right, what will I have? Negative 2 times negative 1/2, of course, is 1. That's what I wanted. Negative 2 times negative 3 is negative plus 6, plus 6x. Negative 2 times plus 9 is minus 18. Okay, let's continue with completing the square. So we have negative 2 times L of x equals x plus half of 6 is 3, minus 9 minus 18. So we have negative 2 times L of x equals x plus 3 squared minus 27. Well, what do I do now? Now I divide both sides by negative 2. Now be careful what you're going to do with the negative 2. So on the left, I have L of x, of course. And oh, my negative 2 disappear right here. And on the right side, I have, so x plus 3 squared divided by negative 2, I'm just going to write it like that, negative 1/2 times x plus 3 squared. I told you the leading coefficient in the standard form is exactly the same as the leading coefficient in the vertex form, right? But I'm not done. I have to divide negative 27 by negative 2, so that's plus 27 over 2. 27 over 2 is 13.5. That is my vertex form. So now let's extract the information out of this form. So my vertex is negative 3 from here, 13.5, right? You switch the sign of the x, but you keep the sign on the y, right? Do I have any x-intercept? Let me start with the y-intercept here for a change. Y-intercept is, I don't know, or let's see, it's 9, right? So 0, 9, 0, 9. Do I have any x-intercept? Well, let's see. My vertex is negative 3, 13.5, so somewhere here. And my parabola is concave down. Yes, I will have some x-intercept, so let's find them. So let's take this equation and let's make it equal to 0. Negative 1/2 x plus 3 squared plus 13.5 equal to 0. So first, we subtract 13.5 from both sides. Negative 1/2 x plus 3 squared equals negative 13.5. Second, we multiply both sides by negative 2, or we divide by negative 1/2. It's the same thing, right? So that will cancel, of course, and I have x plus 3 squared equals 27. Then we know what to do right here. We remove the square, so we write plus or minus square root of 27, and we have x equals negative 3 plus or minus square root of 27. I could write square root of 27 as 27 is 9 times 3. 9 goes out of the root as 3, so 3 root 3. But I really don't need to because I'm after graphing the parabola, so I like the way it's written right here. So my x-intercepts are negative 3 minus root 27, 0, and negative 3 plus root 27, 0. So again, I need my calculator to understand what root of 27 is. So let's fetch the calculator. All right, what is the square root of 27? Let's see. Square root of 27 is 5.2. It's about 5.2. So we have negative 3 minus 5.2. Of course, that's all about. And negative 3 plus 5.20. Okay, let's plot that. I'm going to start with my x-intercept. So negative 3 plus or minus 5.2. Negative 3 is right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.2 is about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.2 is about here. Here are my x-intercepts. My vertex was negative 3, 13.5. So 5, 10, 11, 12, 13.5, negative 3 is here, right here. And then my y-intercept was 0, 9, right here. Now, my axis of symmetry would be this one, x equals negative 3. So I know that I will have the symmetrical to this point on the other side. So 1, 2, 3 right here. Here we go. So now again, I have 5 points to graph my parabola like so. Here we go. All right, please look at my notes for more solved example. Let's go now over the last two examples from the notes. Okay, this is actually example number 7 from your note. Here I am asked to find the range of this quadratic function. The way I'm going to be doing that is by visualizing its graph. So I need to visualize the graph of the quadratic function. And to do that, I will complete my square to find its vertex. So let's begin. To complete the square, you need to divide both sides by 2, but you can see that on the right side, you need to divide 5.5 by 2. So either you take your calculator or you write 5.5 as 11 over 2. So what happens when you divide 5.5 by 2? Or what happens when you divide 11 over 2 by 2? Well, that's simple. That's 11 over 2 times divided by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. So that's 11 over 4. Okay? So what do I have? On the left, L of x over 2. On the right, x squared plus 5x minus 11 over 4. 11 over 4. Okay, let's complete the square. So L of x divided by 2 equals x plus 5/2 squared minus 25 over 4 minus 11 over 4. So this is x plus 5/2 squared minus 36 over 4. All right, almost there. Now I need to multiply both sides by 2 in order to have my vertex form. And I have L of x equals, so 2 times, oh, I forgot my square here, 2 times x plus 5/2 squared minus 36 over 4, actually this is just 9, right? And 9 times 2 is 18, so minus 18. Okay, that will allow me to answer the question, again, simply by visualizing the graph. So let's take a look at the graph of the parabola. My vertex is negative 2.5, negative 18. So negative 2.5, negative 18, let's say it's right here, right? Negative 2.5, negative 18. And the parabola is concave up. Okay, so look, the sketch will look like this. Therefore, the range of the parabola is from negative 18 up to infinity, right? We've done this work on range graphically in the previous unit. All right, let's go to the next example. So this is your last example from the notes. So here I do need to divide by negative 1 or multiplied by -1. It's the same, right? Dividing or multiplying by -1 means simply changing the sign of all the terms. That's what it means when you multiply or divide by -1. So on the left, I have negative nx. On the right, I'm just going to change the sign of all the terms right here. So I have x squared plus 8x plus 23. Okay, let's complete the square with this. So this is x plus 4 squared minus 16 plus 23. And so it is x plus 4 squared plus 7. Then finally, I need to divide by -1 again. So here we get a plus n of x. So we have n of x equals, I'm going to change the sign of these two terms. So negative x plus 4 squared minus 7. So my parabola is concave down, and my vertex is at -4, -4, -7, and it is concave down, right? -4, -7, so let's say it's right here, and it is concave down. And so I can see that my range is going to go from -7 all the way to -infinity, but be careful, I have to write in the right order. So the range is -infinity. You always start with the most negative number or direction, up to -7, and -7 is taken and -infinity is not taken. All right, this concludes this video.